In today's story, a college girl meets a guy at a party and humiliates him in front of everyone. She called him a poor farmer's son, said he didn't belong at their school, told him to go back to his fields. But 2 weeks later, when his family showed up at the university's biggest donor event, she realized she'd just mocked the heir to a billion-dollar empire. This is a story about privilege, about assumptions, and about why you should never judge someone by the dirt under their fingernails. Stay until the end. The moment she sees who he really is, priceless. Westbridge University was one of the most prestigious schools on the East Coast. Ivy-covered buildings, manicured lawns, students who drove BMWs and wore designer clothes like it was a uniform. It was the kind of place where your last name mattered as much as your GPA. And walking across campus on a sunny September afternoon was a young man named Ethan. Ethan Collins, 20 years old, junior year, studying agricultural business and environmental science. He wore simple clothes, jeans, a flannel shirt, work boots. His backpack was old and worn. His truck was a 15-year-old Ford F-150 that he'd bought used. To anyone looking at him, Ethan seemed like exactly what he appeared to be, a scholarship kid from a farming family, someone who was lucky to be there. And that's exactly what Ethan wanted them to think. Because Ethan Collins wasn't poor. His family owned one of the largest agricultural corporations in North America, Collins Agritech. Started by his grandfather in the 1950s as a small farm, built into an empire by his father over 40 years, worth $2.3 billion. They owned farmland across 12 states, developed sustainable farming technology, supplied produce to major grocery chains nationwide. Ethan was the heir to all of it. But he didn't tell anyone. When he'd enrolled at Westbridge 3 years ago, his father had made him a deal. "You want to understand this business?" his father had said. "Then understand it from the ground up. No private jet, no credit cards, no special treatment. You live like the employees who work our land. You learn what it's really like." Ethan had agreed. So he drove his old truck, worked part-time at a local farm to earn spending money, ate ramen noodles, budgeted carefully, and he loved it. For the first time in his life, people weren't trying to be his friend because of his name. They weren't impressed by his family's money. They either liked him for who he was, or they didn't, and that meant something. But tonight, at a fraternity party he'd been invited to by his roommate, Ethan was about to meet someone who very much did not like him, someone who was about to make a very big mistake. The party was at one of the nicer fraternity houses on campus. Music pounding, students everywhere. The kind of party where champagne flowed like water, and everyone wore clothes that cost more than Ethan's monthly rent. Ethan felt out of place immediately. His roommate, Jake, a business major from Connecticut, had convinced him to come. "Dude, you need to get out more," Jake had said. "All you do is study and work. Live a little." So Ethan came. He stood near the kitchen, holding a beer, watching the crowd. And then he saw her. Her name was Madison Rothschild, 21 years old, senior, blonde hair, designer dress, confidence that filled every room she entered. She was from old money, real old money. Her family had banking connections that went back generations. Her father sat on the boards of 3 Fortune 500 companies, and she knew it. Madison was talking to a group of friends near the bar when one of them pointed at Ethan. "Oh my God, who invited the farm boy?" One of her friends, a girl named Tiffany, said loud enough for people nearby to hear. Madison looked over. Her eyes traveled from Ethan's work boots to his flannel shirt to his honest, unpretentious face, and she laughed. "I have no idea," Madison said, "but he definitely took a wrong turn somewhere." Her friends giggled. Ethan heard them, but he stayed where he was, unbothered. A few minutes later, Madison walked over to the drinks table where Ethan was standing. She looked at him like he was a curiosity. "Let me guess," Madison said.
agricultural program? Ethan turned to her. Yeah, agricultural business and environmental science. How quaint, Madison said with a condescending smile. Let me guess, you're here on scholarship? Something like that, Ethan said calmly. And you work at a farm to pay for school? I do. Local farm about 20 minutes from here. Madison's friends had gathered around now, watching the interaction like it was entertainment. That's so interesting, Madison said, her tone making it clear she found it anything but. So, like, what do you do? Milk cows? Sometimes. Also harvest crops, maintain equipment, manage irrigation systems. Tiffany wrinkled her nose. Do you smell like manure right now? The group laughed. Ethan stayed calm. I showered before I came, so no. Madison leaned against the counter. Can I ask you something? Why are you even here? At this school, I mean. Don't you feel out of place? Not really, Ethan said. Really? Because everyone here comes from families that run companies, not farms. We are future executives, lawyers, doctors. You're, what, going to go back and plant corn? Ethan looked at her for a long moment. Actually, yeah, I am going back, because farming feeds people. It sustains communities. It's one of the most important industries in the world. Madison laughed. Oh my God, you're serious? Very, Ethan said. That's adorable, really. It's cute that you think manual labor is noble, but let's be real. You're here at Westbridge because you want to climb out of poverty. You want to be like us, and honestly, you never will be. The words hung in the air. People nearby had stopped talking, watching the confrontation. Ethan's jaw tightened, but his voice stayed even. You're right about one thing. I'll never be like you. Exactly, Madison smugly. Because I'd never treat someone the way you're treating me right now, Ethan finished. Madison's smile faltered. I don't care where you're from or how much money your family has, Ethan continued, but you clearly do, and that says a lot more about you than it does about me. He set down his beer and walked toward the door. Madison called after him. Ah, did I hurt the poor farm boy's feelings? Ethan stopped at the door and turned back. No, he said quietly. You just reminded me why I prefer working with dirt. It's more honest than most people. He left. Behind him, Madison's friends laughed nervously, but Madison felt something she wasn't used to feeling. Uncomfortable. Over the next 2 weeks, Madison made it her mission to make Ethan's life difficult. She told everyone she knew about the farm boy who thought he belonged at Westbridge. She made jokes in their shared economics class. She posted on social media about the rustic charm of scholarship students. Her friends joined in. Ethan became known around campus as that farm guy. People whispered when he walked by. One day, Ethan was in the library studying when Madison and Tiffany sat down at a nearby table, loudly. Oh my God, I can't believe the charity cases they let in here now, Tiffany said, clearly wanting Ethan to hear. I know, Madison said. Next year they'll probably start accepting people who can't even afford shoes. They laughed. Ethan put in his headphones and kept working, but it bothered him more than he wanted to admit. Not because of what they said about him, but because of what it revealed about them. These were people who'd never struggled, never worked for anything, never had to prove themselves beyond their last name, and they used that privilege as a weapon. Jake, Ethan's roommate, noticed what was happening. Dude, why don't you just tell them? Jake asked one night. Tell them who your family is. That would shut Madison up real fast. Ethan shook his head. Because then they'd treat me differently for the wrong reasons. I don't want respect because of my family's money. I want to earn it because of who I am. That's noble and all, Jake said, but Madison is making you look like a fool. Let her, Ethan said. I know who I am. But the situation was about to come to a head, because in 2 weeks, Westbridge was hosting its annual Founders Gala. It was the university's biggest fundraising event, a black-tie affair where major donors mingled with faculty and select students. And this year, the event was honoring the university's largest donors, including a family that had just pledged $50 million for a new agricultural research center, the Collins family. A few days before the gala, Ethan was working his shift at Henderson Farm. It was a small operation, 50 acres, organic vegetables, a farm stand. The owner, Mr. Henderson, was in his 70s. His wife had passed away 2 years ago, and he'd been running the place alone ever since. Ethan had been working there for 3 years. He genuinely loved it. On this particular day, Ethan noticed Mr. Henderson moving slower than usual. "You okay, Mr. H?" Ethan asked. "Just tired, son," the old man said. "Getting old isn't for the weak." Ethan watched him for a moment. "Why don't you take a break? I can handle the afternoon harvest." "You sure?" "Absolutely. Go rest." Mr. Henderson nodded gratefully and headed to the house. Ethan spent the next 4 hours harvesting tomatoes, peppers, and squash. Hard work, physical, satisfying. As he was loading crates into the truck, a car pulled up. It was an older sedan, well-maintained, but clearly not expensive. A woman got out. She looked to be in her 40s, wearing scrubs. "Hi," she said. "Is Mr. Henderson around?" "He's resting. Can I help you?" The woman hesitated. "I'm Rachel. I'm a nurse at County Hospital. Mr. Henderson been donating vegetables to our community pantry program for years. I usually pick them up on Thursdays, but I had to work. I was hoping I could still get this week's donation." "Absolutely," Ethan said. "Let me load you up." He filled her car with fresh produce, much more than Mr. Henderson usually donated. Rachel's eyes widened. "This is too much." "It's fine," Ethan said. "We had a good harvest, and if it's going to families who need it, that's what matters." Rachel's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you. You have no idea how much this helps." "I think I do," Ethan said. "My grandpa used to say farming isn't just about growing food, it's about feeding communities, taking care of people." Rachel smiled. "Your grandpa sounds like a wise man." "He was," Ethan said. "He started a small farm back in the 50s, believed that land was meant to serve people, not the other way around." "He'd be proud of you," Rachel said. After she left, Mr. Henderson came out of the house. He'd been watching from the window. "That was kind of you, Ethan, giving extra like that." Ethan shrugged. "It's the right thing to do." Mr. Henderson put a hand on Ethan's shoulder. "You're a good kid. Your family raised you right." Ethan smiled. "They did their best." What Mr. Henderson didn't know was that Ethan's grandpa, who'd started a small farm in the 50s, was actually Harrison Collins, the founder of Collins Agritech, the man whose small farm had become a $2.3 billion empire and whose land serves people philosophy was now the company's mission statement.
The day of the Founders Gala arrived. Madison was beyond excited. She'd bought a $3,000 dress for the occasion, had her hair done professionally, spent an hour on her makeup. This was her night. As a senior from a prominent family, she'd been invited to sit at one of the head tables. "I heard the Collins family is being honored tonight," Tiffany said as they got ready. "They're donating $50 million for some farm research thing." "Collins," Madison said. "I've heard that name. Aren't they like super rich?" "Billionaires," Tiffany confirmed. "Agricultural empire. They're like the Rockefellers of farming or something." "Interesting," Madison said. "I should introduce myself. Networking, you know." Meanwhile, across campus, Ethan was in his dorm room. Jake was putting on a suit for the gala. "You sure you don't want to come?" Jake asked. "I can probably get you a ticket." Ethan was sitting on his bed, reading. "Nah, I'm good. Those things aren't really my scene." "Dude, it's free food and an open bar." "I'll survive," Ethan said with a smile. His phone buzzed, a text from his father. "We land in 2 hours. Car will pick you up at 6. Wear the suit I sent you. No arguments." Ethan sighed. He'd tried to get out of attending, but his father had been insistent. "This is a major donation," his father had said on the phone. "The family needs to be there, all of us, including you." So Ethan had reluctantly agreed. He pulled out the garment bag his father had shipped to campus. Inside was a perfectly tailored Tom Ford tuxedo. Jake's eyes widened. "Dude, where did you get that?" "My dad sent it," Ethan said. "Your dad? I thought you said your family was—" "I know what I said," Ethan interrupted gently. "It's complicated." At 6 p.m. sharp, a black car pulled up outside Ethan's dorm. Not a sedan, a Bentley. The driver stepped out and opened the door. "Mr. Collins," he said formally. Ethan got in. Jake watched from the window, his mind racing. Who the hell was his roommate?
The Founders Gala was held in the university's grand ballroom. Crystal chandeliers, live orchestra, tables draped in silk. Madison sat at her table, sipping champagne and soaking in the atmosphere. The university president took the stage. "Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight we gather to celebrate the generosity of those who believe in Westbridge's mission, and we're particularly honored to recognize a family whose contribution will transform our agricultural and environmental science programs for generations to come." Madison leaned forward, interested. "The Collins family has pledged $50 million to establish the Harrison Collins Center for Sustainable Agriculture. This state-of-the-art research facility will position Westbridge as a global leader in agricultural innovation." Applause filled the room. "Please join me in welcoming William and Margaret Collins and their son, Ethan Collins." Madison froze. Ethan Collins? The doors at the back of the ballroom opened. A distinguished couple in their 50s walked in. William Collins wore a classic tuxedo. Margaret Collins wore an elegant gown. And walking beside them was Ethan. But not the Ethan that Madison knew. This Ethan wore a perfectly tailored tuxedo. His hair was styled. He carried himself with quiet confidence. He looked like he'd been born to attend galas like this, because he had. Madison's mouth fell open. That's the farm boy," Tiffany whispered. "What is he doing with the Collins family?" "That is the Collins family. That's their son, Ethan Collins, the heir." Madison felt like the floor had dropped out from under her. The Collins family walked to the stage. William Collins took the microphone. "Thank you, President Morrison. My wife and I are honored to support Westbridge's mission. But this donation isn't about us. It's about the future." He gestured to Ethan. "My son Ethan has spent the past 3 years at Westbridge learning what it means to work the land, not from a boardroom, but from the soil itself. He's worked at local farms, studied sustainable practices, lived modestly so he could understand the challenges facing real farmers." William's voice filled with pride. "He's done this because he understands that agriculture isn't just business. It's about feeding people, sustaining communities, protecting our planet." He put a hand on Ethan's shoulder. "And one day, when he takes over Collins Agritech, he'll lead with the values his grandfather instilled in this company, that land serves people, not the other way around." The room erupted in applause. Ethan stepped to the microphone. "Thank you all," he said. "I want to say something about my experience here at Westbridge." Madison held her breath. "For 3 years, I've had the privilege of learning alongside students from all backgrounds. Some knew who my family was, most didn't, and that taught me something invaluable." He paused. "It taught me that character has nothing to do with wealth. I've met students from modest backgrounds who work 3 jobs and still maintain perfect GPAs. I've met farmers who can barely afford equipment but still donate food to families in need.
I've met people with dirt under their fingernails and gold in their hearts." His eyes scanned the room and landed for just a moment on Madison. "And I've also met people with every advantage in the world who use those advantages to look down on others. People who judge worth by bank accounts instead of character." The room was silent. "So here's what I want to say," Ethan continued. "If this research center helps even one student understand that agriculture is noble work, that farmers are the backbone of civilization, that you can be successful without being cruel, then it will have been worth every penny." The applause was thunderous. Madison sat frozen, her face burning with shame. Tiffany leaned over. "Oh my God, you called him a poor farm boy." "Shut up," Madison hissed. After the speeches, the Collins family mingled with guests. Madison watched from across the room as university administrators, business leaders, and politicians lined up to meet Ethan. He was gracious with everyone, humble, kind. Everything she wasn't. Finally, Madison made a decision. She had to apologize. She walked over to where Ethan stood talking with the Dean of Agriculture. "Excuse me, Mr. Collins, could I speak with you for a moment?" Ethan looked at her. "Of course." They stepped aside. Madison's hands were shaking. I need to apologize for everything I said, at the party, in class. I was horrible to you." Ethan waited. "I didn't know who you were," Madison continued. "Would it have mattered?" Ethan asked quietly. Madison opened her mouth, then closed it. "That's what I thought," Ethan said. "Madison, I didn't hide who I was to test people. I did it because I wanted to understand what it's like to be judged for something other than my last name." He looked at her. "And you taught me exactly what that feels like. So, thank you, I guess." "I'm so sorry," Madison whispered, tears forming in her eyes. "I believe you," Ethan said, "but sorry doesn't undo what you did. It doesn't erase the things you said. It just means you feel bad now that you know who I am." Madison looked down. "But here's the thing," Ethan continued, gentler. "I'm not angry at you. I actually feel bad for you, because you've been taught that worth is measured by money, and that's a sad way to live." He turned to leave, then paused. "If you want to actually make this right, don't apologize to me. Apologize to the next person you're tempted to judge, and then don't judge them at all." He walked away. Madison stood there, completely destroyed.
The next day, Madison woke up to a campus that knew everything. Someone had recorded Ethan's speech and posted it online. It was going viral. Comments flooded in. "This is what real humility looks like. Billionaire heir working at a farm to understand the business. Respect." The way he called out privileged people without naming anyone. Chef's kiss. Madison couldn't leave her dorm room without people whispering. But it wasn't Ethan who'd exposed her. It was her own conscience. 3 days later, she found herself at Henderson Farm. Mr. Henderson was surprised to see her. "Can I help you?" "I'm looking for volunteer opportunities," Madison said. "I want to learn about farming, about where food comes from, about how hard people work." Mr. Henderson studied her. "You're serious?" "Very," Madison said. He thought for a moment. "All right. Come back Saturday at 6 a.m. Wear clothes you don't mind ruining." Madison showed up that Saturday, and the next, and the one after that. She learned to harvest vegetables, feed chickens, repair fencing. Her hands got dirty, her nails broke, her muscles ached. And slowly, something changed in her. She started seeing the farm workers as people, with families, with struggles, with dignity. After a month, Mr. Henderson said, You know that boy Ethan used to work here. Good kid, real humble despite coming from money. Madison looked up from the tomatoes she was picking. You knew? Of course I knew. Known the Collins family for years, but he never acted like he was better than anyone. That's why I liked him. Madison nodded. He's a good person. He is, Mr. Henderson said. Question is, are you becoming one? Madison didn't answer, but she kept showing up. 6 months later, Ethan was studying in the library when someone sat down across from him. It was Madison. She looked different, less makeup, simpler clothes, calloused hands. "Hi," she said. "Hi," Ethan said, genuinely surprised. "I've been working at Henderson Farm for 6 months now." Ethan's eyebrows rose. "Really? Really? Mr. H says I'm getting pretty good at it." Ethan smiled slightly. "That's great." Madison took a breath. "I wanted to thank you for what you said at the gala. You could have destroyed me, told everyone what I said to you, but you didn't. That wouldn't have helped anyone." "It changed me anyway," Madison said. "I've been thinking about what you said, about character, about worth, and I realized I've been a terrible person." "You're not terrible. You were just misguided." "I want to be better. I'm trying to be better." Ethan looked at her for a long moment. "Then you're already on the right path," he said. They talked for an hour, and for the first time, Madison saw Ethan not as a farm boy or a billionaire heir, but just as Ethan, a kind, hard-working person who treated everyone with respect. And she realized that's who she wanted to be too.
2 years later, Ethan graduated from Westbridge with honors. He joined Collins Agritech and immediately started implementing sustainable practices he'd learned from farmers like Mr. Henderson. Madison graduated the same year. She didn't go into banking like her family expected. She started a nonprofit connecting urban communities with local farms, teaching kids where food comes from, creating opportunities for people who wanted to work the land. And occasionally, she'd run into Ethan at agricultural conferences. They'd become friends, not close friends, but friends nonetheless. Because Madison had learned something important, that the people you dismiss today might be the ones who teach you the most important lessons tomorrow, and that wealth isn't measured in dollars, it's measured in character, in humility, in how you treat people when you think they have nothing to offer you. Ethan had always known that, because his grandfather had taught him, and now Madison knew it too, because Ethan had taught her, not with cruelty, but with grace. And that's a lesson worth more than all the money in the world. Never judge someone by their appearance, because the poor farm boy you mock today might be the billionaire heir who teaches you what real wealth looks like tomorrow. Money can buy a lot of things, but it can't buy character, it can't buy kindness, it can't buy the kind of respect that comes from treating everyone with dignity. That's something you have to earn, the way Ethan did, and the way Madison is learning to.